Chief Promo, can you hear me?
Yeah, can you enable so station 20
I can barely hear you. I was just gonna tell you that I'm gonna mute you until you guys are ready.
That better?
Yes, that's good. But listen, put it on
Okay.
mute, put it on mute till they're ready to start, because otherwise we can hear
Well,
everything.
for my Fire Station TV, the station 2900 at Gmail, can you let that share the screen? Yeah.
Jesse's gonna be sharing her screen. You want me to change it?
We can't hear you, Christy. Call me. No. You made it into that. Me too. I finished the issue. Oh, yeah.
Recording in progress. project and the process that we're going to be going through over the next year or so. So tonight, we're going to introduce our company, what we do, our scope of work on this project, what we are going to be doing and not doing on this project. I'm going to go through a little bit of the anticipated timeline through the next year or so. Then we're going to cover, we're going to go through a pretty lengthy community engagement process. And that's where we're going to be really soliciting a lot of feedback from community through that. So I want to line out what that process is going to look like and the timing around it. There's also a request for proposals that's been out for an architectural team for this project that has been advertised. So I want to give you a little update on what that process looks like. Then the mayor's going to talk a little bit about the building locations, some Q&A, and then for whoever wants to, we'll grab Josh and walk around the fire station, the police station, and understand the condition of the facilities. If that's something you're not familiar with at this point. So, okay. So the Klosh Group, we are project managers. We manage construction projects. We're fairly small. There's 12 of us about this point. We manage projects all over the Pacific Northwest. It is a variety of projects. We do a lot of public works. We do a lot of work on the coast. And so some projects are small, like a roof replacement for $700,000 up to maybe like a $50+ million greenfield hospital up in Washington. So we really work all over the place, but the coast is really near and dear to our company, and I want Chris and Jack to talk about that because they both live here. A couple of the projects and my history. So I will be working on this project primarily in this community engagement phase over the course of the next year. A couple of the projects I've worked on at the Klosh Group is Manzanita City Hall. We went through a community engagement process there as well. There's a couple little tidbits I'd like to bring forward from that. This is a different community and a different project, and it's going to be unique and tailored to this community. But there's a couple similarities that I think are valuable. I'm also currently working with Napa School District. They had a large bond program. We're building a new middle school and a gym building and renovating some schools over there. So I'm spending quite a bit of time in Napa as well. And then my history, I've been managing construction projects since, 2005. So coming on about 20 years. And before that, I was a structural engineer and my degree is in civil engineering. I've worked with the Klosh Group for about 2.5 years. Before that, I worked for Portland Public Schools. I managed a big high school, and I have a ton of public works experience. I'd also like to introduce Chris, who's going to be taking kind of the second phase of the project when we fully get into design and construction after we have a building and some funding. Go ahead, Chris.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. Chris Maskin-Graham, Senior Project Manager with Klosh Group. Been here for about 3 years. Local to the coast, live down in Arch Cape. So I have the pleasure of doing lots of owner representation for some clients out here. A lot of healthcare work for Providence Seaside, Providence Warrington. We're going to get a new clinic put in there. Also down with Adventist Health in Tillamook. And I'm currently just broke ground on a health center and pharmacy for Nehalem Bay in Wheeler. So a couple of the projects that I've been working on, and I'll kick it over to Jeff Caldwell.
Okay. Jeff Caldwell, 1986 Seaside High grad, so local, been in the area since about 1977. So see some familiar faces. Worked for a lot of different people in the community over the years when I was in high school and trying to figure out what I was going to do with my life after that. But one of the really cool things for me was be able to come back, work on the Seaside Convention Center. And that was pretty awesome to be able to come back and do that as a hometown kid. It was super successful. We got the right scope, got the right budget, turned it over. It was on time, under budget, all that good stuff. So went through a really cool process with Russ and the team, and that turned out pretty awesome. And look forward to doing the same here. So thank you very much.
So I want to talk a little bit about the scope of work that we were hired to do. So primarily, our job is to listen to provide some advice to the city. It's to facilitate the entire community engagement process. And then our job is to hear what listen to what we're getting from the community, listen to what we're hearing from the council, and then implement those plans. So the biggest task is really this community engagement phase. We've got 4 public meetings planned throughout the winter. We're going to also be getting any procurements going, like we wrote the request for proposal for the architectural team. We're going to be working with staff to help score that and get that contract going. We'll also be arranging any other contracts that are necessary for this, like getting a site survey done or geotechnical engineering. We'll also be working to develop the project schedule and a total project budget that will be going forward. And just generally like gathering a bunch of information that we're asked and then explaining the information that we found and relaying that to the people involved. And then we're also going to be working with the design team to kind of refine the designs, refine like the size and the scope of the building to get at a project that the community can support. What's not on here, you'll notice, is the word decision making. We don't decide the course of the project, okay? Our job is to listen to staff, council, and the community, and then kind of distill information and provide what is asked of us, not to direct we don't provide direction to the project is going to take, right? Our cues are from you. So the end goal is to make sure that everybody in this room feels like they're empowered, that they have enough information to evaluate different options for this building and then make a decision about how you feel about it. So that is the end goal. We want to provide you facts, and we want to do it with transparency and honesty and to be thorough. I want to talk next about the general timeline for this project. So we were hired in June. When we got started, we had a few kickoff meetings with city staff to try to understand the scope of the project. And then really the first thing we determined is that we really need a design team. In order to understand what the scope of this project looks like and what the budget could be, we have to do some design. And so we issued a request for proposal. The RFP process takes several months to complete. It is a public procurement. We have lots of rules we have to follow through the state of Oregon. And so we'll be moving towards, we're evaluating those proposals now. We'll talk a little bit more about this process in a future slide, but the idea is that we'll be bringing that architectural contract to council for approval in October. We're having a town hall now just to kind of introduce this process and get this project geared up. And then we're going to get started on perhaps some due diligence activities like getting geotechnical engineering and surveying started. And then once the architect gets started in October, one of the first tasks they'll be doing is to look at the program for the building, which means a building program is how many spaces do we need? How many distinct different types of rooms? What is their square footage? And so we want to look at like a previous iteration of that, which was done a couple years ago. And we're going to try and look for some efficiencies. You know, are there other opportunities to make the building more efficient? Are there other opportunities to create more multi-purpose space? And so that would allow us, the more we can be creative about making spaces multi-purpose, it allows us to shrink the footprint of the building, which is going to help us control costs. So that's really one first important step. So we're going to be working on that really early. And then that's going to, once we kind of can shrink that program as much as possible, that's going to allow the architects to really start putting together some conceptual designs. So we're going to start to see that. That's a long process. It's going to take several months to start to put that together. It's also iterative. You're going to see a lot of different versions of designs come out. And then that is gearing up for us to hold these community meetings and targeting the first one in November. I liked the idea of having one in December, but with holidays and such, that usually doesn't work out. So right now I'm predicting that January, February, and March, that this will really be the bulk of our community meetings. The dates still have to get set. It has to be coordinated with the design team. And then the idea is by the end of the fourth community meeting, after we've evaluated different options for this building, that the community can say, we recommend option number 1 or 2. And then that would be the option that gets recommended to council. And council would be discussing and kind of going over the points in 2 council work sessions. And then we would have 2 more actual council meetings for public comment, debate, etc. Or we would get to a point where council is ready to approve this project to move forward, likely in a bond. Again, the financing strategies, what types of financing this project may get is we're going to be looking at different options. So it's likely it will be a bond. And if that's the case, there is a deadline, which is August 11th of 25. If the number 25 is the desired date to put it on a ballot. So this is all to be determined. You know, we're gonna start really learning things in November, and this could change over time, but right now this is the current plan. All right, so then we get to the community meetings. I really want to emphasize the word proposed community meetings. And that's because we have to allow for flexibility for what we learn. So one of the things I really want to do in the first community engagement meeting is really, it's a big listening session. This was one thing I found very valuable at Manzanita. And we were able to, once we had the design team on board, we had a big group like this. We broke into small table groups of like 6 or 8 people. We had a bunch of question prompts. And so a lot of it was really trying to understand what matters to you about this project. What success criteria? What do you need to hear from us? Is it transparency? Is it about the budget? Is it the location? I know that's a big one. And, you know, but we need to hear from people. And so what happened by breaking into groups, that we able to see like really consistent things across 6 or 8 different groups of people. And that really allowed the whole team to understand now, what are the major priorities for the citizens? And once we did that, that is the information that really helped shape the agenda for all of the future meetings. So I've pulled together like an idea of how these meetings could come together, but I want to emphasize none of this is set in stone. It's just ideas. This first meeting, when we do the listening session, that's really going to determine how we approach the following meetings, because it's depending on what we hear from you. Depends on how the project is going, depends on what we hear from council. And so we want to be nimble, we want to be able to react to what we're learning at each meeting, and we want to be responsive. So I have some kind of draft ideas as what, you know, the likely way this could come out, but I want to emphasize it is very flexible. So the main goals of this whole process is about listening, it's about building some trust, and it's about being transparent. We want you to feel like you have enough information to make an informed decision. We want you to have information about different options. We want you to understand the challenges of any site we evaluate. We want you to understand the challenges of what it takes to design to current building codes for an emergency fire and police station in a tsunami zone. That's a lot of challenges to tackle. And they're going to be difficult, but we want to have honest conversations about them. And that's really the goal of the community engagement process, is to bring people into the process, to bring people into the challenges of designing this so that you can decide for yourself how you're going to support this project. So for the meeting number 1 is I think it's going to be introducing the design team. We want that listening session, and that's going to help us really start to develop some overarching themes for this building. What is the main success criteria? What's going to matter to you? And how can we gauge our success in this process? After that, again, flexible. I imagine I do want to teach you some about some budget terminology. It can get confusing. There gets a lot of misinformation in public projects. I think you already know that from your experience, probably, what you've seen so far, what you've seen in the past. that people just share stuff randomly, and some information is good and some of it isn't. And so we want to help educate you how to sift through some of the information that's really not accurate. And so I think we want to show you the work we've been doing on the building program. You know, if we started with a concept that was 13,000 square feet, you know, how can we shrink it? We want to be able to show you that we've done some work on that and being thoughtful about limiting the scope of this project as much as possible. We're going to get to some conceptual designs. We're going to have to review some technical reports. One example that we learned in Manzanita when we got the geotechnical report is the foundations really ended up costing us a lot more than we originally anticipated due to the nature of the soils. And it's a really important feature. And so we want to be able to have that information and explain it to you so you can understand some of the cost implications of the things we're up against. We're going to be going through, you know, then we want to start developing like pros and cons. We're going to have multiple options to look at for design, and we can develop together some evaluation criteria. So, you know, if budget is your top concern, maybe location is, we can develop evaluation criteria together. We can weight it so that we can objectively evaluate two distinct options and come together with that evaluation criteria to give us some guidance as to which option the community will eventually recommend. And then we're going to keep kind of iterating through this. We're going to have a lot of, there's going to be a lot of different ways we're going to go through this. You're going to see a lot of different types of information, and whatever we hear from you, we're going to come back to the next meeting and bring other information that you're asking for. And then again, we're at the end of the meeting, or by the end of meeting 4, the goal is that we've been able to evaluate 2 different options and arrive at a point where there's, you know, a majority can support one option, and then that will be the one that we bring to council to continue to evaluate. Some of the things throughout the community engagement process that we're going to be soliciting feedback on. This is what I want you to understand where your input is going to come in, and what topics you will be able to provide input on during the course of this project. So one is that project success criteria. How do we evaluate this fairly? How do we do it in a way that matters to you? Obviously, building location is a big one. We know that. We want to get your feedback on how the building looks and feels. You know, it's, I think a previous effort was accused of being some sort of Taj Mahal thing. You know, we don't want that. We want it to feel like it belongs in your heart. We want the scale of the building to make sense for whatever location we're looking at. We want to discuss the total project budget, right? There's only so much that on average that, you know, we're going to want to probably pay for this building property taxes. So we really need to look at the budget and what is a palatable amount. And so then our job is to try and figure out, can we make that building, can we build that for the amount that works for the community? But we want to look at some optional amenities. Sometimes we talk about providing, you know, solar where maybe we don't have to, or providing different types of sustainability objectives. There are some optional things that we generally look at during the course of a design project, and we want your feedback on some things that we should pursue or not pursue for this facility. The other thing is hazard mitigations. We know we're in a tsunami zone. It's a lot. It's there's different ways to look at it. That one's going to be a difficult challenge, I think, to engineer and understand, and how this building responds in an emergency and how functional it is afterwards. There may be some flexibility on it. There's a lot of codes around it. I'm not a code expert. That's not my role. But we have to understand all of those things and understand where the wiggle room is to see you know, where we can flex, what type of flexibility do we have within the code to respond to hazards. Sustainability goals, funding strategies may come up. I'm unsure on that at this point. And then how the site plan is laid out, you know, what property we're looking at, where the street is, where the access is. We want feedback on how the site flows. And then also just the conceptual dies. How does that building look and feel? Does that feel right for your heart? Now I want to jump into the architectural request for proposal. That was advertised in early July, and we've got the written proposals in, and they're currently being evaluated. We have a selection committee. It is Josh and Josh. It's myself, the city administrator Chad, the city treasurer Justine, and we have 2 community members. And so we evaluate the written proposals. We received 8, which is really great. It is a competitive process, a competitive public procurement. Once after we evaluate the 8 written proposals, that's going to help us narrow it down to our third top 3, which we'll bring in for interviews in September. And then the selection committee will be recommending award of the architectural contract to council after the interviews. So that will be in October. The scope of work we've asked the design team to accomplish is what we've already talked about, is how do we think about the size of this building, and are there opportunities to shrink it and be more creative about how we use space? That's one task. The other task is we've asked them to evaluate 2 different building locations. This was one of them. And then so 2 different site locations, which is really going to be 2 different building designs because they're not going to fit on the sites the same way. That's really going to give us 2 distinct options to evaluate. They're going to be heavily involved in the whole community engagement process. It is a team effort. We need a lot of smart people to help guide the design of this building. We also included cost estimating in that. Like, we need a good budget to start from. We have to, whatever we show you now, we have to have a high level of confidence that we can execute on that, when a bond passes, when Chris can take over and really execute on design and construction. We want to be, really confident that the budget we put together now is something we can execute on. And again, we want to be fully transparent about this. And also looking at hazard mitigation strategies. There's a lot of different ways to do it. That's going to take some creativity as well. Right, and now we're getting to potential building locations, which I'm going to turn it over to the mayor to talk about the site locations that we've been looking at.
Okay. So obviously we're in one. In order to build here, we have to move all this equipment to another site. That means we need to obtain a property or an area that we can lease. Preferably, we obtain property, that way we can build something that we can use in the years to come, if we build here. As far as the park is concerned, I said on Wednesday that I was not deaf and that I was hearing what was being said. And in doing that, I had a meeting today with a gentleman who really opened my eyes to the fact that I've passed a lot of these ordinances and plans, like the Parks and Recreation Master Plan in 2022. And in it, it says, the city will preserve all park properties currently owned or controlled by the city as public parks dedicated for open space and or public recreation, such as having been determined to be the highest and best use for all such properties and in the overall best interest of the Gerhard community. In policy 2, it calls for the existing zoning classifications to be preserved and all the parks and open spaces in the P zone to be preserved within the urban growth boundary. And of course, there's number 5. Leslie Miller Dunes Meadow Park to be maintained primarily as Ocean View Open Space. I passed. In the 10 years that I've been serving this community, I was losing sight of what I had already done and already said and voted on. And on Wednesday, we are going to have a special city council meeting. I am going to motion that we take Leslie Miller off. I know there's several members of the council that feel strongly about that. But I have to apologize because I thought giving you a choice between two properties was good governance. When in reality, I'd already made a choice to preserve this park. So I apologize to each and every one of you. So this is the place that we have to choose from. This is where we're gonna build, if you wanna build a new station. There might be another property show up. We don't know. But if this is where you want it and you're willing to commit to it, then I'm willing to fight for you and have it built. And that's basically all I've got to say, because this is it right here. Okay, so, sorry, Jesse, it was a little shorter than you thought.
That's okay. Well, no, we're getting clapping, I think that's okay. So really, other than that, be happy to entertain any questions that you might have about the process. So I think there's still a desire to find a second location. Options are good. This is gonna be a challenging site to figure out. There's not a lot of space here. It's not an easy engineering or architectural solution. That's why a second site is desirable, simply because of the challenges here. Also really challenging to come up with a design where this can remain operational. You can't take a fire station down while we build something new. So I think there's still a desire to find that. I've heard a lot from the city. I know they're actively looking for it. I think they're open to suggestions if you find a property that could work. But anyways, can I answer any questions about the process for you, or what we're doing? Yes.
I was over at the Seaside Fire Department today. Of course, you know, they've got a grant to expand their building. And they're parking their fire trucks across the street. And there's plenty of room across the street here to park a fire truck. Is that an option?
I don't know yet.
Okay.
Possibly.
And what about the grant issue? Have you looked at getting a grant for any expansion here?
We will, there's a really popular grant, it's called a SRGP grant, it stands for Seismic Rehabilitation Grant Program. I think I have that acronym right, it's through the state. That is for renovating properties. So if it's possible to renovate this building to do it, that grant could work. I'm, as an ex-structural engineer, I feel pretty uncertain about that simply because it's so old. And the code has changed so much for emergency facilities. So yes, grants are always on the table. We will always pursue it. It's simply until we have a more narrowed down design location, it's really difficult to start chasing grants until the project is defined a little bit more. But 100%, we always try to chase those. Yes.
Oh, one final question. I have a ton of them, but this is
Okay.
my final one. I'm from New Hampshire, and have you ever been to Boston before?
When I was a child.
Have you seen the old fire departments there? They seem to work perfectly well.
No, I have
And
not.
they're older than this building. guess.
I know, it's, when I was a structural engineer, I worked in Washington DC. And there aren't earthquakes there. It's a completely different world. When I designed buildings, wind was the hardest design force. And I will tell you, I sometimes feel embarrassed about how little I understand about earthquakes as an ex-structural engineer. It is so different, it's so much harder to design, the forces we have to counteract, and the codes are much stronger on emergency facilities. It's what Boston has to deal with for seismic compared to here is radically different. In a way that even though I was trained in this, I have a hard time understanding it. So there's a pretty big difference there as far as codes go. Yes.
Is the bond graded differently if the project is in the tsunami zone? And would their insurance be available if you're in the tsunami zone?
I don't know. Those are both great questions that we should write down. I think this is being recorded. Chad's taking notes. I can see that those are great questions that we should find out as part of this process. Yes.
I remember about a year ago, there was a proposal by a developer who wanted annexation into the city, and he was offering a site for the new safety building.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever happened to that?
It was voted down by the peers.
That was the Highland Station, right?
Yes.
Yes. That was a failed bond, right?
Yes, it
Yeah.
was a failed bond.
Mhm.
It was voted down.
No, I'm talking about a developer within the last year.
No, it was 2 years ago
2 years
when
ago?
they came up.
Yes.
Yeah, I was curious, what's your group's responsibility once the contract has been awarded? For cost, performance and schedule, do you maintain that whoever's awarded that contract stay in accordance with those agreements? Or do you kind of step away and now it's between the city?
No, that's correct. Like we are also contract managers and we're
Okay.
also risk managers. And so it is our job to, inform the city, like, you just asked the team to do these 10 things that weren't in the original scope. We can do that, but it is going to cost more money or it might have a schedule impact. So it's our job to evaluate and advise on extra cost, extra time, and to hold people accountable to the contract terms, 100%. Yep.
Okay, great, thanks.
Yes, in the back. Yeah.
Stand up, I'm short. I'd like to thank you, Mr. Mayor, for your apology. It's greatly appreciated, and for standing on your word, previous word. I appreciate it. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Who hires the builders? The architects or you?
So we would do another request for proposal, at that point in time. So, the current vision is to wait to hire a builder until the bond passes or until the project has financing. So then we would hire what we call a CMGC, which is a construction manager. What does that acronym stand for?
Great contract.
Thank you. And we would hire them at that time, because hiring them now, when there's, I think, still a little bit uncertainty about the project is a little premature. So we would do another, it's a public procurement process, very similar to the architect. And we would write that RFP, be part of the evaluation committee, but then we would have a selection committee like we're doing now.
But to be clear, the city of Deerhart would be contracting with the builder,
Correct.
not through Plush Group.
So the bond has to pass before we know the cost?
No, we're gonna get cost estimating done for sure. Yeah, so we'll have budgets. We just won't hire the actual contractor to do the work until we have funding. Yeah. Yes,
Thank you for a very comprehensive look at all.
You're welcome.
this.
Thank you.
There's been a lot of information
Mhm.
bandied around. I'm just curious, in talking about this site,
Mhm.
does it include the property to the west and to the east? Past City Hall, there's a little parking area. How big is this property?
It's not huge. I think it goes, you know what? I wonder if somebody else can talk about the property lines. I think you know that a little bit better than I do.
Yeah, sure.
Yep. Thank you.
So property lines are, we know the Wiederhorn corner is what it's been known. Before that, it was Blissett's gas station, right?
Right.
That is not included. That square that's been recently sodded, that is not it. But just to the tree line, where there's a small square in front of some of the hotel structure here, that is city property. Then from this building, all the way past the city hall, where it stops at the ridge path. Then you've got the other side of the ridge path there's some arborvitae trees or something that's there, is in that location. And then beyond that is a small 50 by 80 lot, that's owned by Pacific Power, and we're currently in conversations with them. So in this area where the fire station, Public Works, City Hall, septic system, and all the parking that we have is about 1.10 acres that we have. And that's one of the issues. And those of you that want to do a little walkthrough after this to kind of learn what it is that we do back here, Public Works building is connected to this, this building here. So it is included in this idea and something that we're going to have to work out.
Does it go all the way to First Street?
Oh, it does. Yeah, thank you for
So
that.
it goes all the way back.
Yeah, it goes all the way
It's
back
like
to First Street.
3 or 4 lots, right?
Well, in some areas, right back here, we're at the property line, in
Yeah.
some parts of the building.
From right here where that small square is before the trees, it does not go all the way back. But from the corner of the building to the other side of City Hall, it goes all the way to First Street.
Thank you.
Yes.
That, quick one. How many square feet is septic drain field and all that good stuff?
I'm not sure. It was kind of built over time. It's adequate for the 2-3 bathrooms that we have now. And then we have 2 small kitchens in there. We used to have another bathroom back here, but we weren't sure where it was going, so we shut it down. Your hard way, I suppose.
I was wondering if need be, is it possible to move the septic drain field over to the park here?
Yeah, that's entirely possible, although that is one of the concerns about this location is, what kind of fill we're on, because this whole area here was filled up because the whole Gerhardt used to be at that elevation where the Trails End Park is. There was some flooding issues.
Yeah.
There was some other issues. So if you look at the old pictures of Gerhardt, you notice that there was this corduroy sidewalk road that went down like this. I stared at that picture for years, couldn't figure out where it was. People told me it was Pacific Way. Now that I understand that this was filled after that picture, it made a better understanding of it. During the 1996-97 storms, that did fill up over there. So that's, we have that issue there too. But it's possible, and we're kind of thinking about it as an option anyway.
Yes.
Assuming this will be the site, is it potentially feasible that the temporary fire station could be on this general lot? Is there space, or is that at least a potential possibility?
Park, yeah.
Yeah, I'm not so sure. It depends on how it is that we're going to do that. We're gonna have to build a new public works section if we do this project here in this location. I'm 90% sure that that's true. I don't know how we could maybe build that public works section and put the fire station in there, but I don't know if there's enough room to do it. And that's why the
But
architects.
it's at least potential. It's potentially.
That's why we want the design team, honestly, like, we really need people, like, again, we wanna look at the footprint of the building, like, the smaller we're
Right.
able to make it, that's more efficient. And then we have to start playing around the site layouts with the existing facilities. It's a hard problem
But
to
that's
solve.
part of your project.
Correct. Yep, that's one of the solutions we'll wanna look
We
at,
may not need another site.
right? Yes,
Would you name the 8 firms who are interested in this project?
let me see if I can do it from memory, I can't promise, okay. Edda Architects, CETA Architects, FFA, Integris, RSS, Strongwork, MCA, Mackenzie. I did it, 8, yeah. Oh, no team.
So just talk about the public procurement process there for a second.
Yes.
Sure that no decisions, we don't need to acquire those buildings today. So it's a very important part of that.
Yes, this is the public procurement, we're doing our evaluations. It's not a secret who's proposed, but we don't talk about it until our scores are done. We're trying to avoid, it's important that the selection committee be able to evaluate them without, influences like, oh, hey, my brother George is this firm and I really like you to select them, they would be great. That really that's a negative influence on a public procurement and it can disrupt the whole process. So that's what we're currently doing. We'd appreciate a little bit of I don't know, privacy, I suppose, while we evaluate that to avoid impropriety. Thank you. Yes.
My name is Bob. We purchased.
Mhm.
We have about 8.5 acres. It's about 8 times the size of this side. We're more than happy to work with the community in the city to work as a staging area. Less than 10 minutes of my.
Great, thank you. Yes.
Hi, my name is Janelle Bagman. I have 2 questions about process.
Sure.
When you said, when the project goes out to the GCs for, in the RFP process, by that time, they'll be bidding on an approved set of plans.
So actually, no. So this process, our goal for the architects is to only do a conceptual design. So that means it's really, it's siting the building on a location. It is a rough floor plan, and it's a couple building elevations, which means here's what the outside of the building is gonna look like. And then we do some budgeting on it, and then it's pencils down until we have funding. And then we pick up the project and really start designing it, doing all the engineering, hiring the contractor. We hired a contractor really early in the process these days. It's this idea, like 20, 30 years ago, almost all public projects were low bid. And since then, the whole industry has realized, you know what, contractors actually provide a lot of value. And certainly at this site where there's a lot of complicated staging, we might have to keep this part operational while we take something else down, that we involve them very early to help with all of the planning throughout the design. It's also a really great process that it's the contractor, so we'll have like design meetings where the architect might be like, hey, I'm thinking about specifying these types of windows. What do you think? And then the contractor provides feedback of like, you know what, I had problems with that brand on the coast. I don't think it's a good fit. How about this brand instead? And so we work together throughout the design process. And then when we get to a point where we decided there's a bid set, that's when we actually get all the pricing. But throughout that whole time, the contractor's working with subcontractors to get like pricing. That's when they really start to build the relationships. We certainly want to bring in as many coastal subcontractors as we can. It's massively successful when we do so. Like we had both Napa and in Manzanita. I think I've got Inland Electric, 7Ds is on some of the projects. Who's the earthwork? Longfellow. We had, I think Manzanita, I want to say we had 46% of the dollars go to coastal subcontractors. And Napa School District, I want to say it's a little bit lower. It was like 37, 38%, which is really great. There's limited availability for subcontractors on the coast. So the more we can use, it helps control costs. There's less travel time. There's less any sort of per diem fee. So we really like to build that relationship, and having that contractor on board the whole time is really valuable. That was a very long answer to that, but.
One other question.
Yeah.
Actually, the second one is on the, do you know the acreage that you actually would be wanting to, what the perfect acreage is at this point? Is 1.1 acres here? You're saying it's very small. Are you saying that we prefer a minimum of 2 acres, for example?
I don't know that yet. I think, again, we have to know the size of the building. We have to understand each property is different. There's required setbacks, from the property line you have to do, and that can vary depending on where you're at. We have to understand there's a driveway apron you have to have for fire trucks as well. Like right now, Andy, I think one of you guys were saying, right? When your trucks are out, sometimes you're basically blocking the street. That's not supposed to happen. And so I don't know the size yet until we have a chance to do some layout and to understand how all these facilities could fit together. I think an acre is going to be a little small, a tank.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Very much. The last question is Leslie Miller completely off the plate now? Because you said we need to go to an hour council meeting on that. And
I am going to make a motion to take it off.
Okay.
I cannot make that decision for the council. But I can tell you that I know that there are several people that are on the council that have mentioned that they don't want to part on it. So that's what I'm going to do.
Any more questions?
We're a small community here,
Mhm.
and I think that it's really important to keep in mind that we don't need a big Taj Mahal fire station and police department. We're a little tiny community. And we don't need a lot of things that were proposed at the last fire station that was voted down on the pond because it was so expensive. That have all that extra that we really don't need for this little tiny community. And I just wanted to hear that.
Yeah, we have heard, I have heard that already, actually. My question back to you actually is, what do you perceive was Taj Mahal about it? I think that would, like, I've heard that phrase thrown out. I've seen it in some of the Facebook groups. I probably made the mistake of joining. But, but like, I'm curious, like, what was it that was too much?
The gym, the multiple, training, stations, just things that were nice to have,
Sure.
are lovely to have, but do we need them in this community? And I think that if we stay to what we need,
Mm-hmm.
I think that everybody wants to support it. Everybody wants to support the fire department and the police department. We love them here in Dearborn. That's why they want to stay right here where they are.
We're gonna work really closely together, and like there's guidelines for police departments and fire departments about what types of facilities they should have. They have minimum training requirements. So I think one of the things we need to do in one of the early meetings probably is to explain some of that and then explain how we're meeting the need and how we're meeting the need minimally. So that it's understandable and it doesn't feel Taj Mahal. Because, nobody wants that. We know that's not gonna be successful. And so it's our job to be able to convey that to you of how we did our jobs to get creative and make this really as small as possible. Because one thing we do know, everything's getting more expensive, right? Everybody buys groceries. Inflation the last couple of years has been bananas. If you put forward the same project you did a couple years ago, it would be millions more. And that's only gonna get worse over time. It is, I think, pretty critical to this community that we find a successful plan for this facility, because it's only gonna keep getting more expensive. And there's nothing we can do about that. Costs are going up. So now's the time. Yes.
So, following her question, a few of the things I remember, there were like 6 storm rooms. There was a workout room, there were 2 kitchens. And this is a volunteer department, so who's sleeping there? And it's a small community, there are several workout gyms on the coast. Why was that in the offering? No, that was never explained.
Okay. So I think part of the
And
community.
again, wants versus needs.
Sure, yes. I think that's these are great comments, so that when we get to the community engagement meetings, that we can carve out a portion of that and really talk that through with people and explain it and provide some information.
And one more question.
Sure.
So the community input, not everybody's on Facebook. We have not received anything in the mail about these meetings. I talk to people, they don't know they're happening. So whose responsibility is it? I mean, this is a poor representation of this community. There should be more people here. Now, they don't care now, but they're gonna care when the election comes, or they don't know about it. So how do we get the community here?
It's a great question. Official notices I don't believe are sent out on Facebook, but there is a city website and a blog. I wonder if you can talk about that, how the information gets shared.
Yeah, so for those of you that are not on the blog, we've got 2,000 people in this community that are. Now, not all of them are residents. A lot of people are just curious as to what's going on in Gearhart, as are other sites that we have around town. That's one place. Post office, we also post this up there, and at City Hall. But you're right. I mean, there's always more that we can do to get people in. I think for a community this size, this is a pretty decent, amount of people that are coming out. We would like more though. So we'll take any ideas that you have and we'll try to celebrate these meetings as best that we can.
There was another, yes, sir.
Tina and Laura made an excellent point. It goes to proportionality. We are a community of less than 1,650 houses. I think the last count was 1,889 people. Of course, that doesn't reflect the rural fire district in the homes that are there. But as it was said, we are a rural community. When we talk about the $14.3 million complex, dormitory, workout sessions, centers, it's just not applicable. And it's not needed. What we need is something to service this community as efficiently and as productively as we can. And people, I think, will vote their pocket. And I think that'd be a good starting point for people. Just to recognize that simple little concept. You're here.
We're gonna get creative, I think. We've got lots of feedback and lots of things to think about, so thank you for that. Yeah.
Sorry, me again. Something else I read was, or I think it was at the last council meeting maybe, talk of a fully staffed fire station. Is that in the near future, in any future? Or is it going to remain a volunteer fire station?
Would you like to take that question?
I would love to take that
Thank
question.
you.
It is my goal as well as everybody else's goal involved with this city is to keep this a volunteer station as long as we so shall live. Certain things that you may see in there, such as dorm rooms, would help keep that a volunteer station. You all know how expensive it is to live in Gearhart, to buy a home, to find a place to stay. I would have 6 more volunteers right now if I had 6 dorm rooms staying here. We would have people from the valley coming in, pulling shifts on weekends to help out and run calls of volunteers here if they had a place to stay. There's no talks whatsoever of becoming a full-time department at all.
Any other questions? Yes, sir.
What is the actual population that this district serves? I hear that it's more than 1,600 people who live in Little Gearhart. Isn't there a whole area outside that we serve? I keep hearing this, we're just a little community, but don't we serve the highway accidents and that?
It's about 4,000 city in our district.
So what's the actual population we serve?
About 4,000.
4,000 people. So we need a fire station that's good for the next 50 years as the population grows, plus serving 4,000 people, not just something you build today to serve tomorrow. You need to think 35 years out.
Yes,
That's an excellent point. Any other questions?
Good job.
Yeah.
Are there any online?
Yeah, there's also, I think we got about 40 or 50 in here. We've got about 24, 25 online as well. Just to kind of let you know who was there. And Christy can help us out. Christy is in another building, but she can hear us and she's taking care of the technology there. Was there any questions online, Christy, that you can see?
No hands have been raised, but they're welcome to.
That's cool, but kind of creepy, Christy.
I'm not seeing it.
Okay.
Yeah, I just have just a little comment. When I entered Gearhart, I love this intersection, the shops, the grocery store, and I just don't want the groceries at the fire station, the police station, that just to be downtown Gearhart. I just want the community feel to be this area from my perspective. And just be effective, but not overwhelming to this area.
One thing that'll be nice to bring actually to the first meeting, which I hope you show up to, is if you have like any photos of buildings, you're like, I like this one, this style or the scale of it seems like it would fit, right? Any visuals of other buildings that seem like they would be the right fit, that helps the design team a lot understand like where you're thinking about how this building looks. A fire station's usually a taller building, right? We've got big bay doors. It probably needs to be a 2-story building. And so, you know, it's not gonna be a little tiny baby building. It's gonna need to have a little bit more scale to it, but it doesn't need to be monstrous. So there's like 2-story buildings around that seem like, yeah, that seems like it would be the right fit. The design team's gonna wanna like see that, so that would be really valuable information. Yes, sir.
Yes, my name is Bob Shortman. Yeah, that ground over there, like the shacks and above. Now, when they built the water treatment plant, they bid it out, and then they found out that they needed pilings. So now this is all fill, and we don't know what kind of fill, but that's the ground that's over there, that's low. So if the building is gonna be built for seismic and earthquake, and I believe it's the tsunamis, that's gonna be extensive piling. So I think that should be, we should have a ground geologist first
Yep.
before anything.
That's a geotechnical report. That's one of my big concerns, to be honest. That was a lesson learned in Manzanita. We discovered there's this thing called lateral spreading. It was a new term to me. And what that means is in an earthquake, when the building all starts to shake, is the earth is unstable enough that the footings actually want to start spreading away from each other. And to design regular footings to withstand that, it just wouldn't work. It was crazy. And we had to come in and do these drilled piers. The contractor started with an 8-foot diameter drill bit. If you can imagine how large that is. That didn't work with the sandy soils, and we had to pivot and do a redesign down to a 4-foot diameter bit and do more pilings. But in a 1,200 square foot police station, we spent about $500,000 just on those piers. These are some of the things that we want to be transparent about. These are real challenges. Designing a foundation in this type of soil can be really challenging and expensive. And I don't want to scare you, but this is some of the information that we want to be able to share with you so you can understand it. So when maybe the cost, you're like, wow, what is this? This seems like a Taj Mahal. It's not. It's engineering. And we have to work with the conditions that we have here. And we don't know what that is yet. I'm guessing. I have no idea what we're gonna find here. Don't panic yet. It's just an example, okay? Any other questions? We're going to, has any, I think, people have had the opportunity before to tour the fire station, see the police area. Is anybody interested in doing that tonight? We can do that. All right. So we'll have a small tour group. Everybody else, actually, are there any parting words, any closing, council, mayor? I don't want to exclude it.
Does anyone on the council have anything to say? Thank you all for coming out and listening.
All right, we'll like take 5, and then Josh and Andy will kind of lead us through the tour. So hang around if you'd like to see the facilities.
Recording stopped.
Excuse me.